1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get punked, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters don't move. Whatever.
Say, what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to Life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down. Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life. I served 24 years straight in the California prison system, man. Yeah, that's me gassing on that intro. And if you want to get that song, it's available on a 10-song EP that you have to get directly from me. Hit me up on my email, 16tolifemusic@gmail.com. I also got 2 other mixtapes, one with 16 songs, one with 13 songs. I can send them to you on a digital download, man. They're $20 a piece or $45 for all 3. Now let's hop right up into this video, man. So today I got an interesting idea, right, from a dude who, shout out to you, man. You know exactly who you are, right? He always leaves comments in my comment section, right? Now, to keep it 100, sometimes sometimes it seems like he trolling, sometimes it seems like he truly appreciate the comment, man. Either way, man, thank you, because you supported my channel, man. So the other day he left, and to me, first and foremost, starting off looking at his thumbnail, he looks a little young, right? He looks younger, right? And so to me, sometimes though, his comments aren't based on common sense a lot of times, man. To me, it's an emotional thing sometimes, depending on the nature of my comment. Right now, he has made it clear in the comments that he is a Crip from Santa Ana Watergate, right? And so he looks relatively young. I would say probably, maybe somewhere in his early 20s, possibly early 30s, somewhere around there, right? He looks relatively young. It's hard to tell from the size of the thumbnail, right? But basically, he complains because he says my stories primarily and only talk about black on black related violence, right? He said, I didn't have any incidents with Hispanics in prison, right? Well, it is what it is, man. When I'm on the yard, what happens, man. I don't know if he wanted me to go create an issue, and that way I could say I got into it with the Hispanics. I mean, in the county jail, we did get into a riot with the Border Brothers. I did have a couple of fights, or a fight or two with some Southsiders or whatever. But my point is this here. I mean, whatever happens, man. Anytime I've been present, whether it's my car or my race, and a situation occurred, if it got violent, I participated. I was always there, right? So, but, to me, he's upset by the fact that, I have a lot of black on black stories. And unfortunately, those are the things that happen in prison, right? But what really takes me as funny is, when he leaves these comments, he never fails to let me know what hood he's from, or at least he does this a lot of times, right? And sometimes, you have these individuals who they'll leave these comments. They say, hey, fam, or hey, brother, or whatever, right? Then they'll leave you this long comment. Then they'll sign it off with, stating their hood. Well, my thing is, man, when you're dealing with an individual, right, you consider family or you call him family or whatever, continually to making it clear what gang you from is not necessary, right? I have never talked to my mom, my uncle, my cousin, or whatever, a family member, and then at the end of the conversation, I banged on them and told them where I'm from, But to me, what's even a little more different than that, I'll say, is, he identifies as a Crip, So if we gonna keep it 100% truthful, right? Historically, Crips are a group that have a violent history with other black men being the Bloods. So he left a comment saying that he wouldn't fight a Blood. I think he said based on what he was wearing, and he would only fight the Blood if the Blood pressed the issue. Well, that's what gang banging is all about, man. Black people pressing the issue on other individuals. So my thing is, I think that he needs to figure out if he's going to be either a gang member or he's going to be pro-black, right? Because you can say, you can argue that since the inception of the Crips and the Bloods, right, you can argue that they have done more harm on the black community than the KKK. Let's keep it 100, right? Like I said, man, at the start of gang banging, and this dude, you identify as a Crip, right? A Crip's main enemy when it first started was Bloods. So here you are, you are taking issue with me for getting into it with other blacks, but you are connecting yourself to an organization that historically has done just that, right? Historically, Crips have got into it with Bloods. So you cannot, on one hand, talk about, togetherness, and then on the other hand, you still affiliate with a Crip. So I think it's time that, for individuals, and not only to this brother right here, because there's a lot of individuals like that, right? I think it's time for those dudes kind of see the contradiction in what they're talking about and pick a side and ride, right? Now, me, I did a little research, right? And so the research that I happened to see, it said just, so I asked, hey man, what were the top 5 highest gang-related deaths in Los Angeles County, right? What years did you have the highest gang-related deaths, right? And so in 1995, there was 807 gang-related deaths. In 94, there was 779 gang-related deaths. In 1993, it was 724 gang-related deaths. In 96, it was 614 gang-related deaths in the Los Angeles County area. And in 01, it was 587 gang-related deaths. Now, according to these studies, right, I believe these studies might be from 79 through 94 or whatever, but 93% of these individuals murdered in these gang-related deaths were either African American or Hispanic, right? So just think of all the black individuals who have lost their lives in this gang-related war, back and forth between the Bloods and the Crips, right? Because originally, the Crips and the Bloods were the main enemies of each other, right? You cannot name me historically one large black gang, right, that at some point did not have another black gang as his main rival. And a lot of killings and shootings went on back and forth between these two gangs. So once again, if your issue is black on black violence, crimes, fights, so on and so forth, and you really have a problem with that, why are you identifying with a group who historically, that's the thing that they done, that's what they done? If we want to talk historical gang banging, right, that's what it's all about. So why are you identifying yourself with that, right? You have a lot of individuals, man, who want to say that CRIP stands for Community Revolution in Progress, right? And that's a backronym, not an acronym. A backronym is something that was tagged on or attached to that after it was originally created. Because if we go to Tookie's book, what is it? It skips my mind real quick. Blue Redemption, Black Rage, or something like that, right? He says at the start of the Crips, it did not have anything to do with Community Revolution in Progress or California Revolution in Progress, so on and so forth, right? I don't know. Now, you may have had at certain times the Crips were helpful in their community, right? But I've never seen or read anything where it was documented on a large scale that the Crips in any type of neighborhood did anything that was relative to the Black Panther Party, like they did, with the free education program, the free lunch program for the kids, so on and so forth, right? So, in terms of talking gang banging, Crips and Bloods, black gangs got into it with each other. I believe anybody who has done a genuine or a decent stretch in prison, 5 years, I believe they have seen more violence within whatever race they have functioned with, as opposed to racial beef between these other different races. Man, I never forget, I interviewed this white prison content creator. I believe his name was Bobby. I forget the name of his page, right? It's been a while, but he said that he was basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he was mesmerized, he was devastated, and he was astonished how, and he was in a Los Angeles County jail, how when blacks would come in there, they would automatically bang on each other, be banged upon, right? As the dude, who had just entered the county jail facility, wherever they was being housed, they'd find out where he was from immediately. They'd find out his enemies. They'd push the bunk out the way, and he would go back there and he would get it in. Sometimes this dude would run 4-5 different fades, right, back to back with different dudes. So once again, man, if this is what's going on and you have a problem with all this type of stuff, why do you affiliate yourself? Why don't you stop and drop the gang affiliation and just become pro-black or whatever it is you consider yourself, right? Now, he told me that he is from Santa Ana, Watergate. Now, I've done time with individuals from everywhere, right? So I immediately reached out to a friend of mine who I done time with. The dude done maybe about, I want to say 26, 27 years, a lot of that on level 4 Calipatria, right? And he happens to be from Santa Ana. He happens to be from a gang called Blood L. Now, he's around my age, right? So he may have grew up in a different time period than this individual. But I asked him, hey, man, during your, gang banging days, who were the main enemies or enemy that beefed with Santa Ana Watergate? And he said us. He's from a gang called Blood L's, right? So I just make that point to say that why would you join an organization who historically, or at least at some point, has had an ongoing beef with another black gang if that is something that you disagree with and you have a problem with that? I mean, to me, it just makes no sense, right? It makes no sense for you to have a problem with black on black violence, but you are representing an organization that historically has been known for black on black violence, man. Why would you, join this organization that personifies what you claim you are against? To me, once again, it makes no sense, right? And I don't know, I want to attribute his thinking to maybe lack of life experiences, maybe his age, so on and so forth, because it makes no sense. And to me, it just shows that this dude is no disrespect. This dude is a little bit confused, right? Man. So with the things that I mentioned in the gangs, man, it averaged out to be about, so all them, when all them, that I told you, them deaths that occurred in the Los Angeles County, right? Out of all them gang deaths, according to the statistics, 35% to 43% of those was individuals who identified as African American, right? So if we average out how many people lost their lives in that time span, right? A low estimate is 1,229 people. A mid-level estimate is 1,327 black individuals, A high estimate is 1,509 African Americans who lost their life to gang-related violence just in from 79 to 94, right? So once again, you are identifying as a group whose main focus, at least a certain part of a time period, was specifically to go out, hunt down, shoot, and kill other black men, right? So those are a lot of individuals, man. And one thing that I realized being locked up in prison, doing all the time that I've done, there are a lot of intelligent people everywhere of every race, right? But I'm talking in specifics to the black race, right? Because a lot of times it's sad when you're young, you only view other gang members as gang members because you don't get to know these individuals. But sometimes when you talk to these dudes, you sit down and speak, watch these dudes and get to know these individuals, you realize that these dudes are talented, man. I ran across so many talented individuals, man, whether it was being able to fix electronics, whether it was being able to paint, whether it was being able to sing. Some of these dudes had a talent for public speaking, whatever it may have been, right? So if you think of all those individuals who lost their lives in that time period, never even had a chance to reach their potential, right? So to me, it's just amazing that, individuals will want to try to be pro-black on one hand and also be a gang member on another hand, man. You cannot do that, right? And like I said, let's not forget the analogy that I made that at least since the inception of Crips and Bloods, I think it's safe to say that the Crips and Bloods have caused more terror on black men, much more terror on black men than the Ku Klux Klan, right? Because we have to understand and keep this in mind, right? Even though Crips and Bloods, it started in Los Angeles County, it has spread to several different counties now, right? In Southern California, right? And then it also started to spread in several different states. You will be hard pressed to find too many states that don't have affiliations with Crips and Bloods. I know Chicago doesn't necessarily, Louisiana doesn't necessarily, but after that, man, you can find Crips and Bloods in Hawaii, Alaska, New York. I remember a time New York claimed they would never have Crips and Bloods out there. There's Crips and Bloods in Alabama, all over the place, Texas, damn near any state, they got Crips and Bloods in Utah, you know what I'm saying? And so to me, if you think about all the Crips and Bloods who lost their lives over the United States, all the blacks, right? I definitely think that you can make an argument saying that blacks have done more destruction to blacks than the KKK. Anyway, man, think about that, man. Get your mind right. Think about it. You know what I'm saying? You already know what it is. It's your boy 16 to Life. Resume normal program.
It's for all my niggas out there still putting in work, hunting and chasing niggas down. Y'all better wake up, nigga. They hunting us at the same time. Check me out. 5 fingers brought together make the strength of the fist. Black power, white devils put an end to that shit. The strongest race alive divided by the love of the dough. The greed, jealousy, and envy in the colors we spoke. 5 fingers brought together make the strength of the fist. Black power, white devils put an end to that shit. The strongest race alive divided by the love of the dough. The greed, jealousy, and envy in the colors we spoke. I went to sleep this past week with a vision of peace, but I awoke to a war zone in conditions of beef. Instead of getting along, niggas is getting it on. Spitting chrome, splitting domes, steady killing our own ancestors, rolling over more than twice in their graves. Imagine giving up your life and sacrificing in vain. We went from kings and queens and true reflections of God to being killers and thieves, bending laps on this yard. For every slave they set free, they made a slave of the mind. Plantations been redefined, prison changed the design. Cell phones advanced enough to log you onto the net, but at the same time it's motherfuckers starving to death. They done stacked the deck for them and left the color to die. And the more I peep it, I develop blood in my eye. They got us trapped in a cycle of pain, ambition, and violence, predestined for early graves and prison confinement. 5 fingers brought together make the strength of the fist. Black power, white devils put an end to that shit. The strongest race alive divided by the love of the dough. The greed, jealousy, and envy in the colors we spoke. 5 fingers brought together make the strength of the fist. Black power, white devils put an end to that shit. The strongest race alive divided by the love of the dough. The greed, jealousy, and envy in the colors we spoke. What's the use in breathing air if it's polluted with hate? And aside from suicide, ain't no disputing with fate. Role models is hard to find and ain't no hope in these streets. These niggas looking up to G's, loking, posing with heat. Growing up, representing to the ends of the earth. Slanging dope, making pistols, smoking, defending they turf. Refusing to coexist with enemies of the set. And vowing death before the sign of enemies to the death. Black history, what? Nigga, you a goddamn fool. Malcolm, Huey, and Nat, George, and Jonathan, who? Nigga, please, get your ass on and give me some feet. This crib here, fuck that bullshit you spitting at me. But back then, I wasn't knowing about that unseen hand. Didn't know they had a fuck you and a fuck me plan. They scared to death of our potential, cause they knowing the truth. And once we find it out ourselves, they ain't gonna know what to do. 5 fingers brought together make the strength of the fist. Black power, white devils put an end to that shit. The strongest race alive divided by the love of the dough. The greed, jealousy, and envy in the colors we spoke. 5 fingers brought together make the strength of the fist. Black power, white devils put an end to that shit. The strongest race alive divided by the love of the dough. The greed, jealousy, and envy in the colors we spoke. How could the same minds that built the pyramid to the east go from that to self-hatred, killing kids in the street? From one extreme to the next, opposite ends of the spectrum. Nobody to lead the lost, teach, defend, and protect them. Most blacks nowadays, they too ashamed of their skin. Psychologically enslaved, caged, and chained from within. It's time to stand up and take back what's rightfully ours. Take the lead and heal the world, ascend to heights of the stars. I'm just a man and I ain't perfect, I got plenty of flaws. But I'm a soldier down to die and not relent for the cause. I come about one of the many training camps of the slum. Soon as you learn to tie your shoes, you taught to handle a gun. Breeding riders for a war between the red and the blue. Cause you a blood and I'm a crip that make me better than you. Shit, the government is loving it, they plucking us all. So fuck these Democrat Republicans that fucking us all. 5 fingers brought together make the strength of the fist. Black power, white devils put an end to that shit. The strongest race alive divided by the love of the dough. The greed, jealousy, and envy in the colors we spoke. 5 fingers brought together make the strength of the fist. Black power, white devils put an end to that shit. The strongest race alive divided by the love of the dough. The greed, jealousy, and envy in the colors we spoke. Y'all niggas better be ready, nigga. Keep them motherfucking guns bustin' when these tanks pull up in the hood near you, nigga. Open your motherfucking eyes and start looking up out them phones at these clouds and these planes, these chemtrails and all this shit they killing us with, nigga.